So welcome back to this debate or Q&A together with the three Israeli MKs that we have had the honor to host and listen to this weekend. We have got several questions for you. In the short time we will see.
Start with the difficult ones.
I think we should start with a quick one, and it goes from Magda to Anat Berko. What reward will a female terrorist get in paradise?
Wow.
Have you been there?
There is no equality even in paradise for the Muslim women. They said, actually, 5 years I conducted research in the female wing jail. They cannot hear me.
Yeah, you have to unmute it. Maybe it's off.
I think now.
Now?
Now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now. 5 years I actually conducted research at the female wing security prisoners, and they told me that there will be one of the virgins, and there will be virgins again. And the other thing, that a woman that was old will be young, and she'll be the princess for her husband. And I asked, what if she would like to get rid of their husband? Even after life, she will meet him there. Sometimes he beheaded her or things like that. And they told me, yeah, if he was a bad husband, he'll go to Jahannam, to hell, and he'll burn in the fire, and she'll be in peace in heaven, in paradise, where she can get river and of honey and nice scenery, and not to have children. A Muslim woman that said, in paradise, I wouldn't have children. And this is a contradiction, because the male, especially the young male, said, yes, we are not fathers yet, but in paradise we'll have many children. So just to let them know, the virgins, or the female that become virgins and said that they will be virgin, wouldn't like to have children. They want a little bit rest there.
Kind of anti-aging.
Try to stand more behind this mic because it's also recorded. Thank you. So it's a related question. Why don't the moderate Muslims speak more clearly up? Is it because of fear? As Maybrit, you want to go first, Aliza?
Why the Muslims
don't speak more up against those who are against peace or normalization?
Let's ask if they want peace. First of all, they need to recognize Israel as a Jewish state. And, what we learn from the past, that for them, Israel is not, the promised land. And we want to live together, believe me. We want to live together. In the last 3 years, as a mother, I'm very worried. I think I haven't slept well even one night. My son is in the Israeli army. Now it's his turn, and he's in one of the special unit in the army. And everybody has to serve our country. And thanks to our soldiers, men and women, we also served in the army. We were also officers. Yeah. And everybody in his turn has to serve our country. Believe me.
If I may also.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just a moment. Yeah. But believe me, we want peace. We work for peace. And we pray for peace. But we need a partner, an honest partner. And let's start with it.
You don't need that. You haven't.
Oh, yes, I got it. Thank you.
Politician needs one too. I'm from the opposition. He's from the coalition.
She's been a politician longer than I.
That's right.
Anyway, this question is from the field of freedom of speech. will it be allowed for those moderate ones to speak their voice in Arab countries? And sometimes we are being criticized in Israel for the human rights perspective. And I always ask my colleagues from Europe mainly, also from other places, can you please name one human right that the residents of the Palestinian Authority does not have now, that they would have under the Palestinian state? Women rights-wise, LGBT-wise right, freedom of speech-wise. Can anyone name one human right that they would have? What makes someone think that the 22nd Arab state would be so dramatically different from the first 21 Arab states? So they are not allowed to. I was in Gaza just a few weeks ago, demonstrating for our soldiers, defending us, and trying to give them power.
Next to the border, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
next to the border. And next to me there was a guy holding a Palestinian flag and a sign that calls the soldiers murderers. And he was peacefully demonstrating whatever he wanted to demonstrate. And I asked, do you think you have an equivalent on the other side? Saying, Hamas, you should stop. Israel is good. There is no such thing. Even if there are some who think that, and let me promise you, let me assure you that many of them think that, they will not say it. This is why we cannot hear them very often.
Good. Short questions, short answers, and then we can cover all the questions. And maybe you can even send one or two more. This question is from Asker. Thank you. And it can go to any one of you. Are there other humanitarian groups helping the Palestinians that are neutral and not engaged in a political battle against Israel? And how can we, as Norwegians, help those NGOs?
The Norwegian, unfortunately, give a lot of money not to the right cause. If we are speaking about humanitarian aid, yes. If we are speaking about UNRWA, which is something that keeps ongoing the definition of refugee forever for the Palestinians, it's wrong, because there is no solution to this claim of return and calling for the destruction of Israel. So what I would like to ask you, I gave the pictures to Conrad, to see pictures with refugee camps in the Middle East and a refugee camp, Palestinian refugee camps with towers from concrete. There are no refugee camps anymore. And the house of my mother as a child, that she left and nobody recognized her as refugees. Not me, not us, not Holocaust survivors. So the UNHCR must have one definition to the whole refugees in the world, because they didn't, in UNRWA, even recover one refugee, Palestinian refugee. The other thing, they have the platform of UNRWA in Gaza, for example, that's controlled by Hamas organization. There are key positions at UNRWA, and from there they targeting Israelis and sending missiles, targeting civilians in Israel. So the UN, UNRWA, actually, the UN is UNRWA, committed war crime against Israel. So this is things to say. Yes, humanitarian aid, no to UNRWA. It's about time when you have real refugees that you see them here in Europe, in Sweden, in the region, everywhere. And you need to put a lot of effort to observe them to your own society.
So the question was if you know any NGOs that do honest work, but probably it's best not for you to mention them, because then they will have trouble on the Palestinian side.
Well, I wouldn't say anything, but I would say that if they want to do honest work, they need to do it with the Israeli army and the Israeli authorities there to be able to have the humanitarian aid, because we do that on a daily basis. But why in Syria you'll have somebody who give service to the Palestinian through UNRWA, and to the Syrian people, they don't get it in the same way. Just Israel on the border helps them to get the medical care, things like that, and They are the enemy.
Yeah, thanks. This question, I think, should go primarily to Amir, and it's from Peter. In the US, much of the Jewish community, especially the secular ones, identify themselves as left-wing and are often more critical of Israel than the Christian right. How do you explain this, and if anyone else want to add?
Were there for us. Now, Israel is being conducted very complexly. Due to the political system, the ultra-Orthodox parties that are a part of almost every coalition have a veto. They can say, if you promote this and that issue, we walk out of the government. And American Jewry is mostly Reform and Conservatives, which are two streams that the Orthodox and especially the ultra-Orthodox Jewry considers as being hostile, as being something else, not Judaism. Unfortunately, I think we're all brothers. But this
And
is
sisters.
and sisters, of course. This is their. You're right. This is their point of view. So we have issues like with the accessibility to the Kotel, to the Western Wall, which is very important for all of us. They want to pray men and women together. We have a section for men, section for women. This is the Orthodox way to pray. But we also have one for reforms and conservatives, so women and men can pray together. It's not enough. They want to have the full control over that part, and there are issues of conversion and other issues. This is why sometimes we feel we have disagreements. But I just came back from the United States, where I visited the Jewish federations of Florida and Chicago, and I can tell you that they have deep feelings towards Israel. They disagree. Sometimes we disagree amongst ourselves. We argue a lot back home, you know. But they still have the love and the feeling of belonging to the one and only Jewish state. I hope that we will be successful to maintain that feeling and not to be strangers to them.
Yeah, sure.
It's not that simple, and it's one of the tough questions that we, as the Israeli state, has to deal. And unfortunately, in the last 2 years, we don't do well, especially in the aspect of conversion and who is Jew. And more than that, we are not that sensitive to our brothers and sisters. And I'm saying that as an Orthodox woman. And we have to rethinking, and we see the ramifications. And I'm calling from here to our Prime Minister to solve the problem. Because yes, we have a problem, and we can't say that we don't have. And we need to make it much better with our brothers and sisters out of Israel.
I would like to add something.
Sure.
The problem is a problem. Both of us secular Jews, and you see that you have the streams in America, and sometimes we couldn't understand that because we're not going on a weekly basis or a daily basis to the synagogue, perhaps in Yom Kippur. But we're Jews, and because we live in Israel, we have the sense of Judaism very deep inside our identity. But I think that there is a big mistake in the left, and also I could say in the left, sometimes also in America. And I see it on campuses. And I see it when there is no freedom of speech in the academia, a real freedom of speech. And when they internalize all the propaganda of the Palestinian against the only Jewish state. We can do better, and we should do better. But we are the right side. I'm for the right. and we are the right side. and we are the right side, and we are doing good, and you can distinguish between good and evil. And if there is a moral justification to our enemies, we have a problem here. We are in the middle of the Third World War, and we need to pay attention. We are in the middle of Third World War. This is my first speech at the Knesset 3 years ago, and I said that. And I insist that we are in the middle of a war. But we need to identify that and to say that because this war endangers all of us. And I think that to be a Jewish is also to love your brothers and sisters in the state of Israel, to love your own people, and not to be a self-hatred Jew. Thank you.
So, on the topic of war, there is a question from Preben. What do you think about the Iran deal? And the fact that the American cabinet does not really like it. So we know that the 12th of May, Donald Trump will have to take a decision whether to pull back from the Iran deal or not.
We support him.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Let's make the opposition go first.
But first let's celebrate Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and we have to thank President Trump.
For this we need applause.
Yes.
Yeah.
But before Iran, the last question is really bothering me, and I think that all of us, Jewish and non-Jewish, need to know the facts and the history, especially in the younger generation. And I know that MIFF have youth delegations come to Israel, and we need to send our youngest to Norwegian. I believe in dialogue. 6 years I was the general director of the Public Council for Youth Exchange in Israel, and I see the ramifications and the understanding. And we have problems like this with Jews from the States and with friends from other countries. And the more we will talk to each other and understand heart by heart, eyes by eyes, it will be much, much deeper. And concerning to Iran's issue, it's very bad for us, and there is no opposition and a coalition, and all of us against this agreement, and we work together, and we have to thank President Trump for the next step that he's taking us.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
I would say that the Iran deal is not bad for us. It's bad to all of us.
Yeah.
To the whole world. And you know what? I think that former President Obama thought that because the Sunnah is so divided with the terror organizations like Daesh, ISIS, the Jabhat al-Nusra, Hamas, and many, many organizations, and he thought that the Shia is a monolith, like Iran, and they can be the policemen of the Middle East. He couldn't imagine that this struggle will never end if Iran, and look what Iran is doing without the nuclear power, with long-range missiles, with the involvement in Syria, the using of the proxy of Hezbollah, Shia militias, Houthi in Yemen. And because of that, I think that now in office at the White House, there is a very brave president who put everything on the table and even tweeted. Yeah.
Before tweet it and then put it on the table.
And that, I agree. And you know what? He's doing a great job because he is not following this politically correctness that twists the truth. This is the truth. Let's face it and let's go.
Question is, will he get the Nobel Prize a few kilometers from here?
No, he wouldn't send a PowerPoint presentation, so he wouldn't get a Nobel Prize.
At least with the Korean countries, North and yeah. In his strange way,
So when President Trump gets the Nobel Peace Prize, do you think Norwegian army one day in the future will work and train side by side with the IDF? That's one question from the youngsters.
It
Why
will
not?
be very good for them.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Look, unfortunately, we have a lot of experience in counterterrorism and combating. Unfortunately, we wish we wouldn't have that experience. But we are more than willing to share that experience, knowledge, and information with our friends, as Norway is, because we are a part of the same world, the Western world of freedom, sharing the same values. And unfortunately, we also share the same enemies. Any enemy that you would have would also be the enemy of Israel. So this is why we should cooperate more on that field.
Thanks a lot. So I think this goes to all of you. They are really good giving short answers. So if you can still send one or two more questions. What can we do? We as friends of Israel. This is a question from Magnus. And what can Israel do to improve the situation for Jews in Europe and Norway, specifically?
As I said before, I believe in the young generation use more programs. Now we have the internet, and I remember that I asked you, how did you start with, elaborate and make a lot of friends of MIFF? And you told me that first thing, you use the internet and you translated a lot of information from Israel via the different newspaper, and you try to give much more information. And in our days, we're reading only titles and less than that sometimes. And when we speak about stereotypes and feelings, and we don't know. And what you do, you bring information, and that's what we need. We need accessible knowledge. We need to talk to each other and learn from the past and bring it with today's tools. And we have tools. And we have the ability. And together, we can make it much better. We have language, same language, and the young generation have their ability, and together we can make much better future.
Thanks.
We don't need soldiers. I don't need it.
Believe me, we need.
No. We don't need soldiers other than us. We will fight our own battles. But what we need is friends. And friends that would speak out. Friends that would support the truth and the justice cause of the State of Israel. And when you see MIFF has grown so tremendously throughout the years, and how successful you have become in Norway, I think, is it 3 or 4 times bigger than the largest pro-Palestinian organization? Yes. And this is great.
To you.
But I think it would be fair to say that this is not the mainstream ideology in Norway. I think it would be fair to say.
So, in 100 years.
This is it. A few years and efforts that you do, trying to persuade, trying to argue, trying to show the truth for what you believe in, and eventually you will be able to translate that growth and success to political support, because Israel does not have too many friends. And we need Norway as a friend, which you eventually would be able to do. So this is what we need from you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
You want to add something? Or?
Yeah. We have more friends in Norway than in Sweden.
Yeah.
I would say to give the facts, to know the facts, to own the facts, that there was Partition Resolution 181 in the UN for a Jewish state and an Arab state, even not a Palestinian state, and they denied that. And they didn't want to accept that and start a war against the newborn Israel. This is a fact. And when they are speaking about apartheid state, look at them. If you'll ask an Israeli Arab, let's say from al-Fahim, would you want to be part of the Palestinian Authority? No, never. They want to be Israelis, but at the same time, part of them want to kill us. So there is no such an idea of apartheid in Israel when we are the only country who brought Jewish Ethiopian, black people to our state, not to be slaves, but to be citizens. And
Jewish,
Colin Powell, yeah, he was the chief of staff for America, and he said that you are the only state that did that. In Israel, there is equal rights to everybody. And sometimes you feel that there is this platform of democracy, there are citizens that abuse and use this platform to hurt their own country. And we see it in a crystal clear way at the Knesset with the Arab Party, that they are supporting Hezbollah. All the Sunnah words said that Hezbollah is a terror organization, but in our Knesset, there are Knesset members who support Hezbollah. And when we are celebrating our anniversary day, 70 years, and they are coming and like saying, oh, it's a disaster and things like that. It's a disaster for them if they should live in a Palestinian state, believe me, or in Hamas state, the Islamic Emirate in Gaza, or under the PA. So to tell the truth, to have the facts, like to own the history, to know the history, this can win. Thank you.
Would you like to comment? Go on. The last two questions we'll do together, and it's regional politics. What about the relations with Saudi Arabia? Where do you think that will head? And can and should Israel support a Kurdish state? And what will the relationship to Turkey be if they do?
Just to add what I want to add about what can we do together, especially when we see the budget that your country bring to the Mediterranean, to the game, and you have to ask questions. I mean, it's your money. And ask where the money goes. Why instead of building hospitals, they build more tunnels? Why instead of building schools, education system, they do much more terror? And you have the right to ask questions and ask where your money goes. And abilities like this and activities like this can change the game. And concerning the question, we have to understand that the game is change in the Mediterranean. It's not anymore the Palestinian and the Israeli conflict. Believe me, I'm the head of the delegation for the Israeli government in the Europe Council. And every time there is another report against Israel and another discussion and another things, another tool, whatever. And I ask myself always, I mean, are they hypocrisy or blind people? Don't they see what's happened in Syria, in other countries? Don't they understand that the game is changed? I mean, we see that, I'm telling you, that much more countries that we used to call them enemies are becoming our friends, because the name of the game now is in the Arab words, Sunni, Shia, and a lot of ramification of this is in our region. And we have new neighbor, the Russian. Putin is very close to the border, in Iran also. And we have to understand that the game is not what we used to have. And with this knowledge, we have to get out of the box.
Regarding Saudi Arabia, I would say there is a window of opportunity for us. Not based on shared values, which we don't. Saudi Arabia, by all means, is not a free country. It's not a democracy. Although MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, the current leader of Saudi Arabia, brings much hope in that field.
And suggestions.
Yes. But based on shared enemies. because Saudi Arabia realizes that Iran is more a threat to them than Israel has ever been. Israel does not threaten Saudi Arabia, but Iran does. And through that shared enemy, we may find a way to finally bring peace, at least between the two major countries. And this goes unless they will insist, as they have before, that we will give up our homeland or a part of our homeland, because not only this would not achieve peace, it will bring more bloodshed to the region, as the reason why the Arabs are struggling with us, as I said before, is not the lack of hope, but it is the hope that they have to finally, eventually, kick us out. Where? I don't know. Maybe they know. Maybe back to Europe, back to Auschwitz. It's what they think. But if we are standing firm and not only freeze building in the settlements, but build more and more in the settlements, we send a clear message. We are here to stay. And if the Saudis can accept that, we will have peace.
Actually, there is a definition, frenemies. And we're frenemies.
It's a nice one.
And it's the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is a marginalized conflict in the Middle East. It's nothing compared what's happening right now in the Middle East. And we should admit that. And we spoiled the world, the Western world spoiled the Palestinian by let them have those hallucinations that they can be something that they are not. And they wouldn't be, because they don't want to live side by side with us. They want to live instead of us. And we wouldn't let them, we are not going to commit suicide. The other thing is about the Sultan, right? Would you like to hear about the Sultan from Turkey?
1 minute.
Yeah, he would like to restore the Ottoman Empire. I think that it's about time that the Kurds will have their own state. 30 million Kurds that deserve to have their own state. And why the Palestinian issue is such a big issue in Europe, and nobody speaks about the Kurds that have language, culture. They fought Daesh. They were the most effective force to fight with ISIS in Syria. Why? Why? It's about time to do that. And we will stand with them to help them doing so. Thank you.
And thanks to the audience for great questions. A couple of them came in too late. Thanks a lot to all of you, but the greatest thanks goes to the three of you. Thanks for the sportiness of spending the whole morning together with us.
It's been our pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us. It's really a pleasure, and we are waiting for you in Jerusalem.
And we want to present to you our new book. It was published this weekend.
Wow.
40 years in defense of Israel.
Mazel tov.
And even though it's in Norwegian,
It's in Norwegian.
there are lots of nice photos and also the graph of the growth.
We appreciate it.
And you will you can bring
you.
that as an inspiration.
Thank you.
So
Back
just
home.
a moment. רגע, אל תרדו, יש לי ים ספר בשבילנו.
Thank you. Thank
Maybe you can raise up and give them a warm applause.
Thank you. The applause goes to you. Thank you.
So we have also a small present for you. It's a book that I wrote in 3 years. Actually, it's a collection of...
It's also in Norwegian?
No, in English. In English. This is the English version. I worked on it many years. Actually, it's a collection of women's prayers during the ages since the 13th century. I found a lot of materials that I didn't even know. And actually, it's become bestseller out of Israel also because, we know together, all together, how to speak with God. And the most interesting thing happened when I heard that Arab women in Israel use this book, because they told me, Aliza, if it helps the Jewish women, so it will help us. God is the same. So here is for you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Conrad.
Thank you.